Hey, Mrparka here to review the new one from Arrow Films that will be released, I believe, later this September, and it is Tobe Hooper's infamous Eaten Alive. You guys will be obviously familiar with Tobe Hooper from such classics as Texas Chain Saw Massacre and, arguably Poltergeist, Funhouse, and a bunch of Invaders from Mars, Texas Chain Saw Massacre too. Regardless, Tobe Hooper's had a long horror career, genre career, and Life Force, and he's one of those staples of American horror cinema. And Eaten Alive, this is just the Blu-ray they sent over to me with a bunch of special features. And I had the old Dark Sky disc. I actually had the old Elite disc, and I haven't watched the movie. I haven't had a chance to watch the movie since the Elite edition on DVD, which is probably in '98 or so. And I remember liking the movie. I do remember a horrifically crazy red tint on there. Then I jiggled my wires on my AV back then when they had the AV jacks for HDMI, and boom, it got a little bit better. But regardless, so it had been years since I watched this movie. A good, trying to think, 14 years, something like that. And so I put it in, and I really hadn't, remembered it all that well. I remembered the Crocodile, Robert Englund, things like that. Eaten Alive, showcases an amazing cast for the time. It had that, that kind of phase over where you could get a lot of those actors that used to be A-listers and kind of have them in those B horror movies, like something like Without Warning. It has Neville Brand in here, who I'm really only familiar with Without Warning, although he did a slew of westerns beforehand. Stuart Whitman, Marilyn Burns from obviously Texas Chain Saw Massacre, and William Finley, which is really strange. He's from Phantom of Paradise, and Robert Englund, one of his earlier roles for sure, before he put on that glove that we all love so much. And there's a couple other people in here as well. The lady who ended up appearing in The Hills Have Eyes, an Incredible Melting Man, which I didn't recognize her until I watched the special features, which was also really cool. So it's just got a slew of these, these actors and actresses in here that, had a storied career before or afterwards. And it's a really interesting, strange film. What I noticed is this: Tobe Hooper's basically a hired gun for this movie, and of course you go through the, interviews and things like that. He had arguments with the producers and stuff like that. It seems to happen a lot with Tobe Hooper. I believe he was kicked off the movie Venom, which I never have seen, and the argument with Poltergeist. What did he direct? What didn't he direct? But what I really like about Eaten Alive is it's completely insane. To be honest, there's so many weird and zany and just all around creepy and bizarre characters in this film that I don't know who. I know it had two writers, and there's obvious Hooper influences in here. It's just so, it has a lot of similarities to the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. That's probably why they wanted to direct it. It has that that isolated store like area kind of in the middle of rural America in it. It also is based off these weird urban legends. This is based off an urban legend guy about who used to feed people to his gators, and they have that going for him with the Texas Chainsaw Ed Gein and stuff like that. Completely exaggerated situations and exaggerated history, and that's definitely folklore. And this movie has that going for it too. It has the people with the weird disabilities. Neville Brand has the bad leg, as to what is his name, Franklin in the wheelchair, and the little girl even has a thing on her leg. Lots of horrific screaming in the movie, and just all around bizarre. This one is much sleazier than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a lot of nudity in here, and everybody will remember the infamous line from Kill Bill, my name's Buck and I've come here to fuck, and it's definitely lifted from Eaten Alive, my name's Buck and I'm rearing to fuck. Robert Englund's statement here. Robert Englund's great in this movie. Really creepy. Just kind of a punk ass kid, and he's a big jerk. Neville Brand's really creepy, and apparently on the set of the film, you learn a lot in this film with the documentary and the commentary. On the set of this film, he was also kind of a scary kind of guy. But regardless, it is a crazy lit, fever dream, to be honest. There's lots of bizarre stuff going on here, always entertaining. I really like this movie, and it definitely has, I guess you'd say, the downbeat, kind of thing that the 70s horror films had going for them, where it's just like, why? But people would say, why is this happening? It doesn't matter why. It's just happening. Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Just that mean-spirited kind of thing going on. And, a lot of films try that nowadays, and they're just not successful because they're not as interesting as something that's made in this time. And it doesn't, I guess, reflect, the society as it did back then. I don't know exactly why. It's just that this is a crazy piece of filmmaking that I really enjoy. Visually, the movie looks great on Blu-ray. Some scenes look better than others, but of course it is an old film, I believe from '76, so you could expect that kind of stuff. The acting is really good, I believe, and Neville Brand is actually kind of scary. It doesn't even seem like he's acting. It seems like he's just that guy. And it's just really bizarre rants and weird things to himself. He's just almost over the top, but almost seems like it's really himself at the same time. So you're just like, William Finley's character is almost so bizarre, I don't know what the hell's going on with him. It's just like I said, it is a fever dream, and I love the idea that this definitely, I believe, inspired, Jim Van Bebber's short film Gator Green, which is about them feeding somebody to an alligator, and this film definitely incorporates the feeding somebody to a crocodile. That is in Louisiana, I believe this movie takes place in. It was all shot on a soundstage, which is kind of impressive, to be honest. But it might also take place in Texas. I believe it's Louisiana. But the thing is, this is just such a weird mixture of films. I mean, a movie like this nowadays with this plot would never take itself even halfway as serious as this. Although some people would argue this movie is cheesy, it definitely doesn't take itself into the sci-fi levels of ridiculousness, where it's just like, we don't give a shit. This movie is taken fairly seriously, if you ask me, and it comes really downbeat and kind of disturbing at points. But yeah, the idea that this guy has this pet crocodile that he feeds people to after he kills them is just an amazing concept in a 70s horror film. And I'd really recommend it. If you guys have never seen Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive, this is, I believe, one of my favorites of his, after Texas Chainsaw 1 and 2. And I'd probably go Eaten Alive on this one. I know it is an uneven film, and some people may find it just, it has a lot of problems. I don't really agree with that. I said it looks great. With the colors and everything like that, it's got a really bizarre cast. It's got absurdist script that you're just like, what? Who? It's one of those movies that's back in the day that said who paid for this, but also that they went at it at a full throttle and serious with a really capable cast and crew to tackle this insane subject matter. And it does feel like they're channeling a lot of Texas Chainsaw in here. You know how the guy runs, how Neville Brand will run with his weapon and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't expect it to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably one of maybe the greatest horror film ever made. Maybe not my personal favorite, but arguably the best horror film ever made. But this one is definitely a very, very cool 70s, not cool, but entertaining and different and batshit crazy 70s horror film that I'd highly recommend. And it ports over a lot of the Dark Sky featurettes on here, Red Shirt Picture stuff, and has a commentary with a bunch of people doing different scenes. The producer, some of the actors who are now dead actually doing some of the commentary, and a lot of the interviews on here are of people who have passed. But yeah, I would check this out, and I'd recommend the disc. I'm going to pick up the disc when I can, when it's released. Can't have a screener. You got to have the real thing on this one for me. But I'm Mrparka. Thank you very much for watching, and check out Eaten Alive by Tobe Hooper, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have already. But the new release looks pretty damn good. Have a good one.
If you were one of the millions of moviegoers who were electrified by the unbearable suspense and sheer terror of Jaws, get ready for Eaten Alive. Created by Tobe Hooper, maker of the screen sensation, The Texas Chain Saw Massacre, Marty Rustin presents a new horror classic, Eaten Alive. Into this house of terror comes a handful of unsuspecting innocents.
Hello?
What happens to these people in Eaten Alive will give you the most chilling, terrifying 90 minutes you ever spent in a theater.
No.
Marty Rustin presents Eaten Alive. Mel Ferrer. Carolyn Jones, Stuart Whitman, Neville Brand. Get ready for Eaten Alive, a new horror classic.